Here's Alex from Black Sheep IT Consulting, and it's, well, the end of 2025. A new year is coming, and 2025 was a big year for Siebel CRM and the Siebel Hub. And so we would like to celebrate the occasion with a highlight reel of what happened in 2025 to both on the Siebel Hub training-wise and, of course, with Siebel CRM. So we're going to have a rundown of all the great releases from 25.1 to 25.12. But before we go on the Siebel CRM rundown, let's visit the siebelhub.com, because recently there have been many changes and you might have missed those. So let me give you a little bit of a recap on what happened on siebelhub.com. So let's start with the perspective of there's so many things. There's 12 months of Siebel updates happening every year, 12 Siebel updates, 12 times where Oracle adds innovative new features, builds enhancements, makes changes architecturally, for example, that happened a lot in 2025. So if you want to stay abreast of these changes in a very quick fashion, and well, quite bluntly, you don't want to spend any money, then the Siebel Hub is your home page to go to Siebel CRM training and go all the way down. You'll find the continuous updates page. So this page we created for everyone, including of course our students, where they can pick up the latest news in a very easy fashion. It's a bunch of tables literally, and it's topic related. So this is the architecture, etc. table, and you can see that 23.7 was the first version where we had a notable change in the architecture. And there's also a link to our monthly update summaries, takes you right there, no time wasted watching anything else, so you get right to the topic following that links. And as you can see, we've been diligently filling out these tables over the past few years, and every now and then there's a video training popping up when there's a really new feature that Oracle builds, like the Coherence Enterprise Cache in 25.6. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And you want to learn in the established high-quality learning experience that we provide on the Siebel Hub, you can follow that link, takes you right to the shop, and at a very modestly priced video training, you can ramp up on this feature. So you can see it goes all the way down to 25.12. At the time of recording, we haven't done the summary video yet, so that's coming soon. And you get the idea. So you are, for example, on 24.12, and you're planning on doing an update to 25.12. So you're going to, well, look at everything with 25 dot in the name and watch the short videos or take the training, and you'll be perfectly prepared for what's coming. Of course, that's alongside the official Oracle documentation. That's the bookshelf and the release notes, which is also mandatory reading, really. So there's no denying that. But we hope that this page serves as an entry point for your information. What information do you need to conduct the update, prepare for the update properly, and of course get the latest and best training on Siebel CRM. So for example here, speaking of training, Coherence Enterprise Cache is one video training module that we added recently. And let's go back to the training page itself. So I'll just go through the menu and give you a quick reminder that when you are a Siebel professional who's already had a lot of experience with Siebel pre-IP17 or post-IP17, then related to your role for architects and administrators, for developers, for application integrators, we have great summary trainings on all focusing on the new features since IP17. And there's a new architectural concept, containers and cloud manager, and we also have a training for that if you're interested. You can see there's a new flag here, so that's our latest edition, AI for Siebel professionals. Let me take you there real quick. And that's a training that focuses in two parts on how modern contemporary agentic AI coding platforms such as Claude Code or Codex or Cursor can help Siebel professionals be better at their job. So that is the golden age of pair programming, if you will, in eScript, OpenUI, Java for Siebel developers, and integration in general, operations, and even more for any other roles. So yeah, we hope you find this useful, and as you step into the golden age of pair programming with your preferred agentic AI coding platform, then you will find this very useful. So let's go back to the list. We also updated the Siebel integration course. So that's every single of our courses is available as video-based training, but also as an on-premise or on-site or live training over the internet. We deliver internationally in 3 languages. So contact us if you're interested, and you can see the latest edition here. Speaking of recent developments in Siebel 25, Intelligent Search with OpenSearch is here as a new module in this course. So we really stick to our guarantee that Siebel Hub Learning Experience is always up to date. So look at the module list here. So there's nothing goes undiscussed. Apache Kafka integration, inbound REST, outbound REST, AI integration, Intelligent Search. All the recent innovations from Oracle are in this package. And we have also earlier this year, we have created or revisited the Siebel OpenUI training. And if you know what I've been doing over the past years, been also writing some books on OpenUI. And OpenUI is one of my favorite areas of Siebel. And this course is really close to my heart. And we remodeled it for modern eCMA, JavaScript, modern browsers. And it has all the chapters that were previously in 2 courses, all in 1 course. And of course, it's constantly updated to the most recent information. So if you really want to get the grip on OpenUI, that's your masterclass right there, available as video training, live online, or live on-site training. Then, as a reminder, we also have training on business automation. That is covering everything that is no-code or close to no-code solutions in Siebel, starting from workflows to task-based UI, state model, audit trail, workflow policies, assignment manager, you name it. It's there. This is also quite a new course that we put out in 2025. Then we have essential courses for beginners, that is administration essentials and developer essentials, where you can make sure that you or your team, if you hire fresh Siebel professionals, that they get the best training from the best instructors, best Siebel instructors on the planet. Siebel test automation, Siebel scripting, reporting, business analyst, order management, upgrade foundation, public sector. This is our complete curriculum that you can always visit on siebelhub.com. And if you're not sure which training to take, which training to choose for your team, or you need a tailored solution, then please reach out to us at info@siebelhub.com. All right, so you're ready? Let's go. Siebel CRM 2025 highlights. And we start, of course, with 25.1, where there were various enhancements. So if you come from pre-25.1 and you go to the latest version, 25.12, or at the time you're watching it might be 26 something, then you get all these features. And be aware that there are Tomcat version numbers and other version numbers, which of course might be much higher when you actually install your target version. So what happened in Web Tools in 25.1? We got the Properties panel. So we're highlighting the most interesting parts here, of course, only. And the Properties panel brings back that Siebel Tools feeling, right? where you have this alphabetic list of properties in one single panel, which also can be used to edit that. So I do personally like this one very much. Then we will see throughout this presentation that Oracle has frequently updated the event pub sub feature, which translates to Siebel integration with Kafka. So since 25.1, you can integrate natively with OCI streams, that is Kafka on OCI. Also, Siebel Cloud Manager, you will hear a lot. And one of the biggest changes in Siebel Cloud Manager, which went past a lot of people, is that you can, since 25.1, install Siebel Cloud Manager standalone. So previously, it was just a marketplace feature on OCI, so what confined to OCI. So what if you want to run Siebel Cloud Manager or create a Siebel Cloud Manager managed Kubernetes orchestrated Siebel environment on any other cloud, Amazon or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure, and that's possible, and even on-prem, with the standalone installer for Siebel Cloud Manager. So you can bring your own resources and install on any cloud or on-prem. Then we go to 25.2, where there was a big change. So yeah, pay attention here. If you are going from pre-25.2 to anything later, there is an automated replacement happening. We'll talk about that, of course, of the ODBC driver, but not only that, the Oracle Instant Client is also now bundled with the Siebel binaries. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then you see, again, Siebel Cloud Manager changes, REST API, some D-support notices here. Linux 7 is no longer supported. So if you are on Linux 7 and you want to update, well, it's time to update your Linux to Oracle Linux 9 maybe. So that ODBC driver migration, that was prompted by the old Merand or Data Direct ODBC driver. That is a third-party driver, it's not Oracle's. That was long deprecated, and the company didn't even exist anymore. So Oracle did the good, prudent thing and replaced it with the Oracle ODBC driver. As you can see on these screenshots, the Oracle ODBC driver is placed in a folder called Oracle DB Client in your Siebel Home. So that's not just that driver DLL, it's the entire Oracle Instant Client. And so Siebel now ships with the proper Oracle database client. You don't have to install it anymore. It's still a 32-bit client. Maybe in the future we'll see Siebel 64-bit. So if that ever happens, then Oracle just has to replace the binaries and you get the 64-bit driver, no questions asked. So you don't need to install a separate 32-bit Oracle driver anymore, Oracle client, sorry, with version 25.2 and higher. And if you come from any older version, there's an automated migration, which of course needs extra time and preparation if you do the update. So here's the folder location that you will find in the Siebel binaries in 25.2 and higher. 25.3 was apparently a big one, as we can see here. So let's just jump right in. Web tools, frequently mentioned here, is got 3 new applet wizards. So those wizards that you love or hate in Siebel Web Tools, then you can now run in Web Tools. So the classic Siebel tools moves to Web Tools again. And there's news in the AI integration department. So before 25.3, the only provider, if you will, for AI service integration was the OCI hosted models that Oracle hosts. And that is not enough, of course, because there are other models out there. People choose other providers, or you have your own local models. If you have the tight security of a bank, for example, then you can now use a new business service, the Siebel Generic AI Web Service. And that allows you with a clever templating structure to connect to any model out there independent of the provider. So now we are outside the confines of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure models. We can reach out to any other model. So the example on the screen is still an Oracle hosted model, but you can really use any other model like Anthropic, Claude models, or ChatGPT, just to name prominent. And test automation is also very often updated. If you haven't looked into Siebel test automation and looked into our training course, then you're missing something. And you might have heard that Jenkins is supported for batch executions, but installing and maintaining Jenkins just for that might be overkill. And so Oracle decided to make it happen without Jenkins. So Jenkins is still an option, but now you can run it right from the DSA command line. So that is the batch test execution runs that you would normally run through Jenkins. And also one word of caution, if you are going beyond 25.3, so that is 25.3 or higher on your development environment. So here's the development environment that you have updated typically first, and your test and RR environments, prod and test environments, they can officially stay 1 year behind. That's the gap that Oracle supports. So this is called a cross-version migration, because when you run the migration application, it takes the data from a newer release and has to, fill it into an older release. And that works pretty well. But with 25.3, there's been a change in the migration application. So if there is this gap, that exact gap, your DR is 25.3 or higher and your RR is less than 25.3, then you must set a system preference, use old migration signature true in the DR environment. So that will tell the migration application, okay, I'm migrating to an older version and I should use the old migration signature. That's what it tells it. And don't forget to turn that off when you have finished updating your RR environment and they are current. So you only need that for that period, if ever. And speaking of certifications for Siebel, one big certification change was Oracle Database 23 AI, the modern vector type database version of Oracle that is currently 26 AI is coming out soon. And I'm not going to talk about the details of this database, but it is now certified with Siebel CRM since 25.2. And at the same time point in spring this year, Oracle has shifted the 10-year Premier support period 1 year into the future, as usual, as every year. So every year it's extended by another year and it goes for 10 years. So the official Premier support end as of this recording is December 2036. So that's 11 years from now. And when you watch that video 1 year from now, it will be most likely 2037. So we are now in April 25.4, has some modest features here in the CTMS area. So CTMS, Clinical Trial Management System, is one of the industry applications that gets a lot of attention from Oracle, is actually hosted on OCI. And customers around the world are using this, and it gets a lot of enhancements. As you can see here, some dashboards have been added. And also some things, get removed. So the support, or practically the patch updates for Siebel CRM on HP UX and Oracle Solaris, they have found their terminal release to be 25.4. So 25.5 and higher, you don't get any patches for Siebel CRM if you are on those platforms. Of course, if you want to continue with Siebel, then Oracle strongly recommends to migrate to, Linux. Probably Oracle Linux is a good choice here, or Windows, or Siebel Cloud Manager. use Siebel Cloud Manager to lift and shift the environment off to, well, a Siebel Cloud Manager managed Siebel environment. So we are on 25.5, which was a minor release, if you will. There is no such thing as a minor release. It was another patch with bug fixes and documentation updates, but no essential features. So we can go right to 25.6, which was substantial. So remember that Oracle client migration. If you are using Oracle database, that's a big one in 25.2. So now imagine you're going from pre-25 to post-25, 26.1, 25.12. You also will make the big jump from Java 8 to Java 21. The 25.6 and higher uses the Java 21 runtime engine. And not only that, there's a new feature you can use, the Coherence Enterprise Cache, which I mentioned when we did the rundown of the Siebel Hub trainings. And there's even more changes. So 25.6 was really a big release. So the star of the show is Java 21, which ships now with any of the current and future Siebel versions until there's a new version change, of course. And it supersedes the JRE 8 version, and 8.21, well, that's a big gap that is bridged now. And so it's important, of course, to understand when you do an update where you cross the line of 25.6, you go from pre-25.6 to anything later, you must be prepared for that, especially anything Java related, that is the Tomcats get a new version. DISA gets a new version if you use that. Any third-party jar files that are included in Siebel or your custom jar files, if you have those, you need to recompile them with the Java 21 JDK. So make sure you prepare for this thoroughly. You have your checklists ready. You find your source code for Java and you recompile it and put it in the right place. And also you have to deal administrating-wise with the new Tomcat version. So now we jump from Tomcat 9 to the Tomcat 10 line. And that brings a few subtle changes. So Tomcat is still Tomcat, but Tomcat 10 has a different structure in the server XML. So I heard some reports and saw it with my own eyes that some server XML merges that are automated, they just don't go well and you have to manually fix it. It's rare, but it can happen. So be prepared. And that is what our training on siebelhub.com and our efforts here on the Siebel Hub YouTube channel are really all about, to prepare you, to educate you, and so you know what happens actually when you run a big Siebel update. And big could just mean you jump half a year and you have these changes. Oracle also shipped the Coherence Enterprise Cache feature with 25.6, and that means that's an optional feature. It's not turned on by default, but you can install a Coherence node. You can deploy Coherence on an internal Tomcat, and that allows you to cache information, or the system can cache information. So what information do we cache? We cache everything related to application and API login, that is user preferences, responsibilities, positions, organizations. We cache the runtime repository, and that's the big deal. Imagine the first Siebel server starts up and basically fills the cache. When it retrieves data from the database, puts it in the cache, the next instance can retrieve it from the cache. And so the next Siebel server just reads from the cache altogether, and is much faster. That also speeds up view navigation for the users, because that also refers to the runtime repository a lot, and in general API throughput. So if you need that extra oomph in performance, look into the Coherence Enterprise Cache, and do look into our training course on siebelhub.com. Then quite a change is coming if you want it to come. That is Oracle Chat. Yes, the Oracle Chat framework, the web component framework composed by Oracle using Preact and other libraries, is included, is shipped with Siebel. You can't really see it unless you turn on the Redwood theme. And then if you go into 2 specific new tasks that Oracle has added as an example, then you see Oracle Chat rendered web components on top of Siebel controls. So that what you see on the screenshot here is still an applet. This is still a view in Siebel Task UI with a tree applet and list applets. But of course, it's obviously rendered with a different engine than, well, plain jQuery or other things. So that is actually a thing. You might not need it, you might not use it, but if you're interested in migrating forward to a Redwood user experience, a real Redwood user experience, well, 25.6 and later has all the equipment you need. So yeah, here's another screenshot of Oracle Chat being fully shipped with the Siebel webroot folder, as a matter of fact, and loaded when you run the Redwood theme. Okay, 25.7, we are in summer 25, and 25.7 had some features along the lines of enterprise data quality, UCM and SCM, and 25.8 had some features along the lines of generative AI use cases. Oracle introduced test automation, big test automation update it was, and some other updates there. So let's just look into that generative AI use cases, where Oracle puts in a use case, not necessarily something you want to use, but how it can be done. Oracle shows you with service request satisfaction score data, which, believe it or not, is generated based on the data by an AI model, not by the customer. Well, yeah, no comment on that. And also another use case is, of course, the extraction of information from attachments, which Oracle showcases in the multimodal AI use case that you can enable and then, of course, reverse engineer and apply to your use cases. Then in the test automation area, we have new dashboards to summarize test script data and result data from test executions. There's also something called a test execution profile, which makes it easier to create those test execution records. And we have something called automatic test path generation. So if you're really into test automation, 25.8 is a big release and makes things a lot easier and a lot more professional. And in 25.8, it was also time to say goodbye to a good old friend. If you ever looked closely into how Siebel ran, we have to use the past tense here, on Unix or Linux platforms. It's C++ code that is compiled on Windows and it needs to run on Linux and Unix platforms. There is a third-party software called MainWin that acts as a portability wrapper between those worlds. And that is deprecated with 25.8, so Oracle doesn't need it anymore. They made some changes to how they compile the C++ code for Siebel CRM. 25.9, minor update, sorry, it's an update, not an upgrade, in CTMS again. So Clinical Trial Management System, one of the industry applications that gets a lot of attention. And 25.10 was another big one. So we had the third big one, 25.2 with the Oracle client, 25.6, Java 21. 25.10 is big because there's a big new feature, a encryption upgrade, which makes it challenging, or not really challenging, but you need to watch out for certain things. And we'll talk about the other features on this list here. So the first one is the encryption upgrade. So what happens here? So imagine you're coming from a pre-25.10 Siebel version. At the time you're watching this, it might be January 2026, and you're planning on 26.1, and you have, let's say, 24.12. So you jump across the Oracle client, the Java 21, and now also your update will include the encryption upgrade. And that's not as bad as you think. Nothing is actually re-encrypted. It's just that Oracle switches to a different library, OpenSSL Crypto, for the AES 256-bit encryption, which you already should have. If you're on a really old Siebel version, you don't have that, but then you are in a major upgrade situation. And Oracle ditches that key file bin, which is the master key, which is of course encrypted in a file. And that master key is actually now in Zookeeper. So the trick is that when the update runs, you must keep that flag checked so the server can restart, and it restarts the gateway registry service and the Tomcat, the internal Tomcat on it, and it connects to it and writes that master key in Zookeeper. If you cannot do that automatically, you can do it manually, of course. And another great feature, which is also covered in a new course on siebelhub.com, is Siebel Intelligent Search. So it is not new that you can search across business data and attachments in Siebel CRM. You can do this from, back 25 years back or something like that. But the new thing is that OpenSearch is now the search engine of choice, the open source fork of Elasticsearch, that is. And it is AI enabled, so you can load semantic models in there, which makes it easier for users to do a semantic search, for example, or fuzzy searches. And of course, the big thing about this, because you always can dump the Siebel data in the search engine, but you lose the access control, the Siebel visibility, position, team-based, you know that. So this, of course, is honored and enforced at all times. So users only see what they see in Siebel. And that's the big deal about Siebel search in general. And something we really missed for a long time has finally come back in 2510. The Redwood theme, which is on the market for 1.5 years now, but was not getting much attention, much love, because it was missing exactly these navigation layers, which are not new, of course, but this is the navigation that 99%, I might be exaggerating, it might be just 98%, of users are using with the Aurora theme or Synergy or other themes. There's always a tab, a horizontal style navigation on not all the levels, but many levels. And the tab navigation now comes back, or is for the first time available, with the Redwood theme, which was previously just a side menu. Or actually, you had officially clicked the Ask Oracle button, which is still there. You need a repository upgrade for that. So at the end of this discussion, we'll also quickly recap what's required to get all these latest features into your Siebel environment. And there's another deprecation. 25.10, we say bye-bye to the application data service. So you might not immediately know what this means. This means that the migration application has actually two services, which were called Application Data Service and Application Data Service with Transformation. And these were table level migration tools. You had a special view, you can see it on the screenshot here. You can create those migration rule expressions for tables and where clauses and transformation clauses. And it would generate files that the utility would read. So that those two services and the view are deprecated. They no longer exist, they're no longer supported. There is, of course, a migration path, which is Application Deployment Manager projects. But yeah, now you know. And we are on November 25.11 at the time of recording, just a few weeks ago. Again, we have a Siebel Cloud Manager enhancements, a Siebel Marketing News, REST API enhancements. So let's talk about that marketing news. If you are using Siebel Marketing or have used it in the past, you might know about the OBIE or Siebel Analytics, if you're that old, Oracle BI Enterprise Edition segmentation feature, which was also ported to the Oracle Analytics Server, but was desupported with Oracle Analytics Server 2024 and later. You could ask Oracle for how to turn it on again, but it's officially desupported and sunsetted. So Oracle has to find a replacement. And the replacement for the segments and segment trees and the list formats, that is that trinity that was the holy grail in Siebel marketing, is now replaced with analysis, which is the generic query feature in Oracle Analytics Server. It was formerly named Answers. And those analyses you put together in terms of what fields and what filters, and then you associate the analysis with the campaign. There's also something called an analysis collection, which is practically a folder with many analyses. So if you're into Siebel marketing and you want to use the modern Oracle Analytics Server, or maybe in the future when it's certified Oracle Analytics Cloud for Siebel web marketing, then watch this space. 25.12. Well, at the time of recording, it's out for maybe 24 hours, and we already have the rundown here. We can close up our 2025 highlight reel. Intelligent Data Archival is here. So 25.12 is a really big one, adding bold features for Siebel. Intelligent Data Archival is an end-to-end solution to define rules in the Siebel database, which are then executed by a microservice based on Helidon and the Siebel REST API. So it's a MACH architecture, and that microservice-based architecture ensures that it can read the data from Siebel, put it in the archive database or archive storage, delete it from the Siebel database, and make it accessible for retrieval. So it's a whole thing, and of course on Siebel Hub we are working non-stop to bring that training to you in a short time. So stay tuned for more. The same is true for Siebel Open Integration. So Oracle has not only shipped one banger feature in 25.12, they have shipped another banger feature, Open Integration, which was announced for a long time and people have waited for it so long. Now finally it's here. And that is basically a new API on top of the Siebel REST API based on, here is the word again, Helidon and MACH microservices architecture, microservice API first, CH, headless, the H is for headless. So yes, you can create those headless applications. You can create an external application that interacts with the Open Integration Server, which is run by or in as Helidon instances, which is Java, so it must have a jar file, and in the jar file it has everything it needs to read the Siebel REST API and provide you not just with business objects, that is data or business services and workflow, because that's what the Siebel REST API can do out of the box, but also exposes, and that's the new thing, UI objects, applets, and views. Yes, you heard that right. So applet, view and applet definitions are now exposed by the REST API, and this architecture allows you to not only query for data, but write data through the Siebel UI by meaning of REST requests. It's pretty new as a concept, and of course, like with the intelligent archival, we are working on the siebelhub.com as we speak. We are working on bringing the highest quality training course to you on Siebel Open Integration very soon. Then if you're in the Kafka area, so which is already a thing for a few years now, then there's quite a big change, quite a big feature that was requested by a lot of customers, the Avro serialization using the Apache Avro framework that is integrated with Apache Kafka, that uses a JSON structure, JSON schemas to define a structure to map and enrich data structures as they go in and out of Kafka. And that will be also available soon on siebelhub.com as an, of course, update to the already existing Siebel Kafka Event Pubsub training course. And also our test automation training course will get updated with the loops feature. Yes, finally we can do loops inside test scripts. That is, you define a start loop and an end loop, and all the steps between, they will be executed repeatedly until either a condition is true that you can define, of course, or you have a maximum count that is reached. So a classic loop now can be defined in a test automation test script. And that's a cool thing. There's a lot of use cases there. Okay, we are reaching the end of the presentation, but let's do a little bit of a rundown. We have this tradition running down Siebel tools versus web tools. So you can see web tools definitely getting greener every year, with just a few wizards left before we can declare all green in these categories on the left. Some of which aren't available in Siebel tools. So if you're still using Siebel tools only and not web tools, I think now 8 years, 8 years into web tools, it's safe to say web tools should be your primary tools, and Siebel tools should only be used when web tools cannot do it. Web tools still cannot do a lot of things. That is not a negative, it's just a factual listing here, but you still need Siebel tools for all these things here, starting with editing or applying table definitions, schema changes, object comparison, pressing all those buttons for generating code on integration objects, or doing the right-click thing, deploying as a web service. Not that you would need it much today. So some things will not make no sense to move them to web tools, I guess. But some definitely do, and Oracle, I'm sure, I can only speculate, Oracle sure has a list, a very similar list to this, and is working on it and to bring web tools to full glory. And we also have the workspace comparison, where as of 25.12, the repository-related artifacts without workspace support are still, for a few years now, or since IP17, you have to say that, all the schema-related object types down the table, EIM tables, down to the docking objects you won't probably use anymore. And also OpenUI manifest is in the repository tables, but is not workspace managed, so not versioned. And for anything non-repository, that's also true. The exception is still list of values. And will we see that list change? Will I have to update this slide next year? Who knows? Well, we'll see. 1 year from now, we'll know. And finally, how do you actually get to Siebel 25 or even Siebel 26? What are the upgrade and update paths? So you might have seen this diagrammed before, but let's take a fresh look at it with our knowledge from Siebel 25.12. The database upgrade guide still mentions 7.5.3 as the oldest officially supported version where you can update from. That was in 2003, so that's now 23 years back. And you can even upgrade from older versions, but that's not an official path. So that's the official path. It needs a two-step upgrade to go from those very old versions. Of course, you have high interactivity with Internet Explorer. I cannot even imagine anybody using that, but I fear, I'm afraid somebody uses that. More modern versions, if you will, until the 7 and 8 versions, they need a one-step full upgrade. So we're talking about a full upgrade project, which takes person years. So those are these, well, very expensive and time-consuming upgrades that you have to do to get to the highest version. If you do a two-step upgrade, you land on those 8.1.1 basically OpenUI enabled innovation pack Siebel releases until IP16, which was OpenUI only. This is called an incremental repository merge. It's still a big upgrade. So even if it's IRM or upgrade, if you go from IP16 or earlier to the modern Siebel 25 or 26, then you have to account for a big upgrade. You have to open your wallet, and you are talking about person months, probably more like person years to accomplish that. It has been accomplished thousands of times, probably, and it will be accomplished. It is definitely something that is fully supported. So there's a line here. If you make it, you have invested those person years, etc. You're on the latest Siebel 25 or even Siebel 26 1 month from now. Or you might have been on an earlier release. You might have done this big upgrade before to IP17. That was a long time ago already, 8 years. Or you are on anything on the modern Siebel releases. And the modern continuous update releases are Siebel 18 to 25 at the time of recording. You might be somewhere here. Like we mentioned in our examples, you're on 24.12, so you're right here. And how do you get to the latest version? This is an update. So the update is a three-step process, which takes just a few person days, or at best just 1 person day, depending on your architecture. And that is including the binary update, the mandatory post-install database setup, and the optional repository upgrade. So we'll talk about that in a moment. So yeah, let that sink in. If you're already in the green area, you only have an update in front of you, and don't wait for it, just do it. 25.12, as we have seen, is a perfect landing release with a lot of features that you can then explore well into the next year and implement them. And when you're ready to implement them, there will be a 26 something release, which might have bug fixes or enhancements to those features. So here's the verbose description. I'll do this very quick. So there are several mandatory steps, starting with the backup. Yes, no brainer, but don't forget it. And make sure that you can restore from a backup. Taking backup is easy. Restoring is the hard part. Then you run the MDE, the Modular Deployment Engine, the Siebel Update Installer, or the Siebel Installer, which runs in update mode. It does the binary update. So binary means the Siebel binaries or third-party software, Tomcat, Zookeeper, get updated. And also there's a topology update if you come from a quite old pre-21.1 version. Then you have the mandatory post-install database update, which we'll cover in the next slide. And you have several optional steps, one of which is the repository upgrade. And I wouldn't say make it mandatory at least once a year. So you're not falling behind more than 12 months. Because when you wait too long, the repository upgrade is cumulative and it pumps a lot of things into your database and your repository. Now 25.12, that's almost 6 years back what it updates. So, and that's a lot. So that's too much for many teams. And so they say, let's not do it, and then wait another year and it gets even worse. So just do it, right? Okay. If you don't do the repository upgrade, you might have to manually apply some configuration instructions, which are described in the release notes. So release notes, mandatory reading. Also, you might need to apply things from known issues from those release notes, things that do not work in that Siebel release. And you might have some administrative changes, like changing your settings for IMAP POP3 because it went to 64-bit, just an example. So here's the process for a DR environment. The development environment update is different from the RR environment. Notice here 25.10 or higher, you're going there Make sure you understand the implications of the encryption upgrade. But of course, you start with a backup, shut down your environment. If you're not doing the rolling update, which is an option, then you run the MDE on the first Siebel server, because that allows you to run the post-install database update automatically as part of that update. And if you don't want to do this, you still have to manually do it. So you still have to make sure it's completed. Once it's completed, you can run the update on any other Siebel home directory you have for your other Siebel servers, your gateways, your AIs, your sidecars, your cache servers, your tools. Don't forget Siebel tools. I'm looking at you, yeah. And don't forget your Siebel developer web client if you still have those. Then you can start up the enterprise and verify, do your smoke tests, so everything's still alive. And you can decide, do we do the repository upgrade? Let's say no config instructions, because we just had like 6 months worth of update done and there are no administrative changes. In best case, you are done already. But it's not that easy always, so you might have to run the repository upgrade. So as I said, if you haven't run it recently, run it. And that repository upgrade will do 4 things actually. So the post-install database update does 3 things. It does schema, so that is tables. It introduces tables and columns in your database. It does seed data. That is, for example, few definitions, runtime events, that kind of stuff. And it does manifest data. Schema, seed data, manifest, 3 things. The repository upgrade does all the 3 things: schema, seed data, manifest, and it does the repository upgrade. So don't fall for the name repository upgrade. Oh, it's just about the repository. No, it changes your schema, it adds seed data, it adds manifest data or modifies that, and it imports hundreds and hundreds of CIF files, objects, into your repository, into a safe workspace, so you can then, of course, validate that and test that and conflict analyze that. If you don't do it, you have to manually probably apply some config instructions if you identified them in the release notes. Both cases, you made changes to your repository, you have to test and deliver those. Then you have lots and lots of changes. You might have to do something about your TNS names, placement, Java 21 related stuff. You might want to install the coherence cache. You have to reinstall DISA as part of the Java 21 journey. So you have these admin changes, and once you implement those admin changes, then you're done. So now we really have the development environment updated, and it took me a few minutes to explain that, so it will take you a few days to get there if you run the repository upgrade, probably. And let's now take a look at the test or production environments. It starts the same with a backup, shutdown, running the MDE, making sure the post-install database update is complete. Again, remember, it does schema, seed data, and manifest updates, mandatory updates in those 3 areas. Then you can run the installer on any other Siebel installation, Siebel Server, Gateway AI, Siebel Mobile Web Client. No, not that many people would have that. You can start up the enterprise. If you didn't have any repository changes or no admin changes even, you're done. So you can see it's already speeding up here. If you have repository changes, you need to migrate those. That's a migration application coming into the game. Migrate those changes and the seed data. The migration application has to take care of the schema changes, of the seed data changes, of the manifest changes, and the repository changes, and bring them into the RR database. That's what you have to understand about the repository upgrade. And then, of course, you have to test it. Siebel Test Automation would be a great addition here to your pipeline. And you probably have administrative changes, replace those jar files that have been recompiled, set up the coherence cache, all the goodies that you now have with 25.12 and higher. And now your test environment is updated, and in the same way you update your production environment. Okay, so yeah, that's the whole story about Siebel 25. Everything you can learn about Siebel 25 is on siebelhub.com. Contact us if you need more information. Siebel 25 was a great year, so a great 12 releases and updates that are cumulative. So if you go and decide to update Siebel today, it would be 25.12. If you watch this video a few months later, it's 26 something already. And so I wish you, a happy holiday season, a happy new year 2026, and of course, a successful Siebel update or upgrade. Thank you very much. Take care and bye-bye. See you next year.